It is not so much a badge of courage as it is a rite of passage in professional wrestling. And if you've been around long enough, well, sooner or later, it's coming for you, if it hasn't already. Let's talk about being ribbed. I'm Mike Quackenbush, this is Till We Make It, and today let's talk about what happens when you are ribbed. And by that I mean, you are the victim of a prank, a practical joke of some sort in the world of professional wrestling. If, like me, you love reading the biographies and autobiographies of wrestlers from previous generations, you will discover that there is a long legacy of being ribbed in professional wrestling. And some of them, admittedly, trend toward being very mean-spirited ribs. When I broke into wrestling in the mid-90s, a lot of the locker rooms I would go into were filled with pranksters. I was ribbed non-stop in my first couple of years, and I saw other people ribbed as well. Some of those were very expensive and costly and somewhat risky ribs that put people out lots of money. For example, having the soles cut off of their wrestling boots. Just saying that out loud makes me think of 3 different times people have ribbed me related to my wrestling boots. Once, both my boots were filled with shaving cream. Once, one of my boots had a cheese sandwich smushed into the bottom of it. And once, I came to the back and my boots had their laces removed and I was on next. And just mentioning that can make me think of at least 2 occasions where my bag was hidden from me so I couldn't get dressed for my match, and one occasion when I was working out in the Pittsburgh area where someone found my keys and took the time to move my car to a completely separate parking lot so that when I came out after the event, my car was not where I had left it. Thanks, Tom. And of course, in the moment, I'm sure I was flabbergasted or freaking out, but I realized that none of these things were done in a way that they were meant to be especially mean-spirited. They were relatively innocuous. They might have been a bit annoying. I certainly remember my boots smelling like shaving cream for a solid 2 months after that particular rib, but none of them ended up costing me hundreds or thousands of dollars. None of them prevented me from actually making it to the ring, even if it was in a bit of a sweat and a little bit of an anxiety-ridden scramble. I still made it out to the ring. So in some ways, I feel rather lucky because I have been in locker rooms, granted 2+ decades ago, where I saw someone fall asleep in their chair and have a stripe shaved up the back of their head that they had no idea about until they made it to the next town. And similarly, I have seen someone have a hole cut in the back of their trunks before they got dressed, so they didn't realize when they ran out to the ring, they were showing a little bit more than they had bargained for. If you've been around for a while, I bet you've been subjected to some ribs too, and I would love to hear all about them. The next time you come to town, you can take me out, buy me a cup of coffee, and tell me all of your stories. I can't wait to trade rib stories with you. And as I said at the very beginning, they are not so much a badge of courage as they are a rite of passage, which says, hey, you're kind of one of the gang now. And the way in which you react to being ribbed says a lot about you to the entire rest of the ensemble. And as I get ready to unpack this, I do want to excuse from this conversation exceptionally mean-spirited pranks. The kinds of things that might cost you an enormous amount of money, or those that are very obviously mean-spirited in nature. Like, someone took a razor blade and slashed up all the gear that you brought with you to an event. Or somebody decides when you're not around to drop a deuce in your bag waiting for you to discover it. These fall into another category that I most sincerely hope you never come across in the entirety of your wrestling career. So what do you do when you realize you have just been ribbed by somebody? You may not even know who did it. You may never know, but the way in which you react in that moment is really important, and here is why. All of us in professional wrestling, no matter what job we fulfill, put ourselves in service to the needs of the group at large. We are all there doing what's being asked of us to help another person get over, to help a story get over, to help an entire organization to be elevated. We put all of those things ahead of our own self-interests. We are in service to a larger calling. And in the moment that you are being ribbed, believe it or not, you are in service to something. It's the entertainment of the whole group. Yes, you might feel embarrassed or a little bit humiliated when that happens, but taking that all in stride and being very good-humored about it says something about you, and I think this is what it says. It says, you can count on me. Yes, I can handle these kinds of things with grace. I'm not going to lose my cool. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to start turning tables over and getting into fistfights about this sort of thing. You can count on me as a member of the team. In those moments when we are embarrassed or humiliated in front of the group, we are showing a certain vulnerability. We're the butt of the joke. And I know that can make some people very uncomfortable. It forces their emotions to trend toward the extreme. But you've got to remind yourself, and I'm saying this as much to you as I wish I could be saying it to a greener version of myself many, many years ago. This, in many ways, is an indoctrination. It is the group saying, hey, you are one of us. And if you can allow that and take it with good humor and level-headedness, you will find that you actually start to bond even with the people who might have pranked you moments ago. Conversely, when someone is unable to accept this with good humor or level-headedness, and they react in a way that is not necessarily proportionate to the size of the rib they were just victimized by, they actually set themselves outside the group. They ostracize themselves. The feeling of being alienated that embarrassment or humiliation brought on is only further compounded by their reaction, because it is saying to the rest of the team, I'm not one of the gang. You cannot have a laugh at my expense. So let me now offer these 2 tidbits to you. Do your very best to remember in that moment when you discover you have just been ribbed. This is a weird way of saying, hey, you are part of the group. And take it with a smile on your face. And number 2, if there's something about this rib that just ruffles your feathers so badly, then the correct reaction from you is to quietly begin plotting the rib you're going to play on them the next time you share a locker room. The process of making this video has made so many other ribs that I was subjected to percolate up in my brain. And I think I'm going to start dropping them in the comment section below. And why don't you do the same? I'll see you down there right after you give me one of these and you hit subscribe and then ring that notification bell as well. Oh, and because I've been somewhat negligent about this, make sure you're following us. We're at Till We Make It on Twitter. I know that's downstairs in the show notes, but some people never open that up and look. So now I'm telling you, we need followers over on Twitter.